In this video, we will see how you can manage payments against invoice. So this is a very simple sample data. You have invoice table with ID, date, item ID, and invoiced amount. Then against each invoice, there can be multiple payments. So for example, invoice ID 1, you can have, in this table, in payments table, you have two payment lines. Against invoice ID 1. Against invoice ID 3, you have 4 payments line. So these two tables I've loaded in Incorta and created a join between these two tables where payment table is a child table and invoice is a parent table, and join is using invoice ID here and then invoice ID in the payment table. Now, this is the raw data. Exactly same as what you just saw in Excel file. Invoice table raw data, payment table raw data. There's a join between invoice and payment. Invoice is parent table, payment is child table. And join is between invoice ID and then invoice ID here. And this is parent table. Now, requirement is against each invoice, I should be able to track total count of payments that have been done and also how much payment has been done. So that's pretty straightforward. From invoice table, I can just drag and drop ID, date, item ID, invoice amount, whatever I need. And in Incorta, since we do left auto join by default, so Incorta will show all the rows from payment table and not any other row from invoice table if there's no data for that invoice in the payment table, because you can have payment table with no payment for a particular invoice. Now, to enable that, make sure you have show empty groups checked here. So for all of these columns. Right? All of these are checked. So when you do that, you will notice that for invoice ID 4, there is no payment here. But I still want to see invoice ID 4. Same for invoice ID 2, there is no payment here. Right? But I still want to see it here. And since invoice is a parent table, if you don't check that flag, it will not show up. Only because I've checked that flag, you can see invoice ID with no data in the child table. Now, other requirement is I should be able to see payment count. And I should be able to do invoice amount minus total payment. What is this here, right? So for example, here I have total payment is 470 and invoice amount is 633. 633 minus 470 is 163, right? So how do you do this? There's a little trick here. You have to be careful when you do that calculation. So let's see. Now, payment count is pretty simple. It's just count of payment ID, right? Showing you payment count against each invoice. Total paid is just sum of total amount paid, right? Pretty straightforward. Now, this is the trick here. You have to be careful when you do this calculation, which is total invoice amount minus total payment. This is the formula I've used. This is, you have to use average of invoice amount. Don't use sum here, because if you sum here, it will double count. And then do sum of payment amount. Once you do that, your formula will be correct and it will show the accurate value. Now, say for example, if you want to see how many payments happened for invoice ID 3 before or on 316. So this will filter for invoice ID 3 these two rows, and then these two rows will not show up, right? So total payment will be 300, right? Not 470. So let's say you go to payment date and you do something like less than equals 316. This is a payment date and apply. So this will apply the filter and show me all the payments before 316 or on 316. And this table also reflects that. For invoice ID 3, total payment is 300, and this is showing you total payment 300. 633 minus 300 is 333. Hope this helps.